In the silence of this moment, I can feel your presence here, holding every broken piece, wiping every hidden tear. When the night was holding on, you were standing by my side. Through the storms that tried to break me, you became my place to hide. Every road I walked in darkness, every fear I could face. You covered me so gently. Now I'm wrapped in yours. You never left me. You never changed. Your love kept reaching through all my pain. I'm wrapped in your grace, covered in mercy, held by your love. No matter how far, no matter how lost, you always show me the way. Your light surrounds me. Your peace restores me. Forever my heart will say, I'm wrapped Well, good evening, everyone. I don't know what part of the state you're in. I don't know if you're either Pacific, Eastern, or Central Time, but I'm on Eastern Time. So right now, the time here is around the time I usually don't come on is like 12:19 in the evening. So that's the we were on right here, 12 a.m. in the morning. I usually don't come on this late, but it's been Juneteenth. So Juneteenth, there's been a lot of things that was new that was added to me from this holiday. Things I learned, new things that was brought to my attention about why we celebrate Juneteenth, why it's important to commemorate this day, and also why we should pass it on to our children about ancestry and our history because it's important to them. Okay, it's the story being told. Nobody else to tell your story but you. So you don't be erased from out the history book of what great things your people have contributed to this world. And not only just to this world, but to this nation. That we live in this place in the world that they call America. America and all that it stands for. And being one of the greatest places in the world. And where does all that greatness come from? Aren't we a part of it? Aren't we a part of it? And haven't we done the most? The most? And that's why we don't allow our children to forget the stories of our past. The stories in our songs, in our hymns, old spiritual Negro hymns. Black history is 365 days a year. And on that calendar, you are to celebrate who you are in the flesh and in spirit and in truth every day of your life. And sometimes we have to have certain days just for those who didn't get it
on certain other days, like during Black History Month, when people do their research of their history and share some of the things they discover of their history. That's some time of the year. But some people, la di da di da. So here we are in June. You now have June. We celebrating Juneteenth. We celebrating our freedom, our independence, us also being recognized as human beings, just like any other human being on this earth. Every trying to, every man and woman should be equal, but it's not. And I don't think it would ever be that way. It's how you have to use your judgment. That's the way I look at it. You have to see for yourself what you have endured, what you have given, truly. I mean, what you have given. You have to, ain't nobody else gonna give you that. You have to let them see that, and you have to let them know that. Nobody else is going to praise you greater than themselves. You have to see it. Hello, hello, hello. You have to see it. So, anyway, and my title is my kneecap for Juneteenth. For today, I was supposed to go to my church. They were celebrating Juneteenth, but they wanted to celebrate it in African attire. So I was like, oh no, we not doing that. Even though my church is an AME church, and of course, we were named African Methodist Episcopal, but I just didn't feel that would have been appropriate for me. Even though I know it's an African Methodist Episcopal church, but yeah, I used to watch the videos of Kevin Samuels. I wasn't a fan, but I mean, all the controversy was going on around him. Every now and then, I took a little, interest in watching before I made my judgment. So anyway, so I'm like, I didn't go because I wanted Juneteenth to be celebrated of something of American history, not African history, not us being freed and fighting for our freedom and against oppression in Africa. We didn't do that fight in Africa. We did that fight here in the United States of America. And that's the new thing that I have found about myself with all this adapting to other, you know, people from diaspora or African pan Africanism. I'm an American. In order for me to be recognized an American, I have to be an American. So I just didn't want to participate in that. I just didn't want to be a part of something, group myself in with something that I am not. I've never been in Africa in my life. Yes, I have married a long time ago when I was very young, and a Nigerian, a West African. That's before I knew anything about myself as a black American young woman. So through that experience, I learned something about myself, and I learned our cultural differences. And there is a lot of cultural differences. Okay? And, you know, that's the story of my life. That's as close as I got to Africa. Around being with a Nigerian and being around his people and being able to be introduced to some of their culture, their foods, some of their language, and their literature and some of their music and famous music artists and literatures and things of that nature. So I got to learn that part of Africa, but I didn't learn that in Africa. I learned that in America. Okay, and I'm not an African. So that's what I learned this Juneteenth about why it's been a battle with who's going to celebrate, how we going to do Juneteenth, and grouping us in with other people from all different black culture, all different other places of the world. No, this is an American culture. This was American history. And this is to the American families of black history, black American families, the chattel slave children, and those who grassroots are here. Our grassroots are here. We have no knowledge of who our ancestors are in Africa, but we have all our beginnings from humble beginnings of our history and knowing who we are here in America. From our grandparents, from our grandmother to our great grandmothers to our great great grandmothers. We have like traveled so far away from Africa through our lineage that part of the world don't belong to us. We're in American soil. This is where we were groomed, nurtured, and actually, this is where we was cultivated. So why were we gonna keep saying we're African? We are not African. We are Americans. Dark skinned American people. Put it that way. We black Americans. We are the dark skinned people that live in America. Our ancestors, our heritage, everything is here. So we can't go back. We're moving forward. We're moving forward in time. Don't you get it? And those people that's coming over here that's African, those are Africans that want to live in America, that want to sell out their birthright of being African, and they want to be American. They don't want to be Nigerian, they want to be American. There's no such thing. And like I said in the last couple of videos I did before, either you American or you're not. If you was born someplace and that's where your family heritage is and your family history and your roots and everything, that's who you are. Okay? You can't force yourself to be something that you're not. Because eventually the real who you are is going to show up. And another thing I wanted to say is that was also been hurting the progress in this country for black Americans. Because grouping us in with all these different ethnicities and cultures and nationalities or whatever hurts, makes our story, weakens our story, and also hurts our progress. It, it hurts our progress because what we experienced here, you cannot relate to it because you have not lived it from here. Your history and all your injustice and your oppression came from the land that you fled from, not here in America. So when our voices are out there, it's being kind of like overshadowed, ignored because you are yelling for things that you want to be treated right about and your rights, but your rights is not here in America. And then by you co-signing up to come to America freely, that's not fair to the ones who's been here fighting for freedom in America. And you getting benefited from it, and we're not. When you should be benefiting from your freedom in your own homeland, in your own native land. That's where you should be reaping your benefits, not here in America and stealing and robbing and from the American people. And say whatever you want to say about President Trump, call him supremacist, racist, whatever. But I pay attention to the enemy of the race as well, what they're saying. Because even though you saying Americans first, that includes black Americans as well. We're American, okay? And the thing is that they don't override us and try to take from us, they got to go get their reparations in their own homeland, in their own homeland, from their own government, not from the American people, not from the black American people. Most and the thing is that y'all Africans, whatever Africa, claiming to be our relatives from Africa, y'all sold us. Y'all sold us to into slavery. Now y'all want to come back and claim us and also get reparations for us. Make that make sense? Because y'all sold us, and then on top of that, y'all the ones, if you ask me, gave white supremacy power. Because you always giving the white man some kind of worshiping. You don't worship who you are. You don't care about the skin you in. You hate the skin you in. You get bleaching creams and you do all of these crazy things to your complexion, your skin. Nothing's truly, and I said it to a lot of African women before, what is wrong with your skin? When they put that bleaching cream on their skin, then you start seeing all the blotches and the skin discoloring and all that other stuff. But other than that, there's nothing wrong with their skin. They just don't want to be dark. And I said this to Africans, and I've been around these African women. I've been around the culture. I've been around the experience with the culture and the whole freaking nine. Okay? They come here and they make us feel inferior. That's the problem between us and them. Now, if they was in their own African native land, fighting for the same rights as we were, then we could be building on a better understanding with each other, and then we could get there together. But no, y'all come over here and y'all try to get in the way of us progressing, okay? And y'all get your feelings hurt when we call you out and tell you who you are and we recognize you. We know you don't belong here. We know you not us and you trying to cosplay us. And then y'all get mad and y'all say black Americans and Americans this and Americans that. But it's not Americans, it's Africans because you are in America. We not over there bothering you. And when we come there, we respect you when we come there to try to help you out and fellowship with you or whatever. But some of y'all come over here and y'all be ridiculous. But y'all supposed to go back home and help your own people. You're not supposed to stay here and try to throw away your birthright just so you can gain benefits from the black American experience. And that's exactly the game the government has been playing for a long time on immigration of bringing people from third world countries and other black places of other black culture and everything into the United States of America. That's where we have, that's where our progress has been interrupted in that experience. And the only people, and I'm just saying this, they want to be so close to proximity to, they start to sell their values out, they start to sell out their roots, they start to sell out their culture, and then they expect us to go along with that. No, we ain't doing all of that. And the problem with this Juneteenth, not the problem, but I'm saying what was added on to me this year in this Juneteenth of 2026 in celebrating America 250th years of America, and also our progress, our excellence. It's not only just looking back at the bad things that happened, it's looking at all the great things that's happening where we at today. It was beautiful to see that the Obamas, which is supposed to be black, the face for black America in our leadership, and especially being the first black family to be the first black family in the White House or whatever, show some class and had a wonderful celebration of his library and his that milestone together of their achievement. It was so beautiful to see how they did they ceremony there, and how Michelle spoke to her husband and everything to stand by his side as this difficult part of his political life of what's going on around him right now and what's going on around every leader in this climate right now of America. Um, Nobody is perfect. It's definitely not an easy job to do when you're in leadership, especially when you have to be leadership over a nation. Barack Obama was what, 40 what when he came into leadership? He was a very young man, very young man. But the thing about Obama, okay, and I didn't attack him at any time during his presidency, during the time he was in leadership as far as leading this country. I voted for him twice. And the thing about it is that I believed in the Obamas, and I didn't really know much about Obama. I just did what everybody else did. I got colorblind, and that's when I was like DEI and not DEI. That's when I was like into identity politics because I have not yet come to knowing anything. I was still learning, so I was taking my own chances and using my own judgment or whatever, or making my own choice. So, because I was very unsure about who I should vote for, but I wanted to still exercise my right to vote and just give myself a chance in who I believe will be a good leader for our nation at that political time. So, that's what I did. And not only just identical the politics, but just that part of history. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to make sure myself was I was a part of that part of history. Anyway, so moving forward, I did it twice, and it was beautiful when he went the second term. It was another, me cheering on the Obamas. I was on the team. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's make America, change and all this other stuff. I was all into the spirit. And we did it. He got in, he did what he had to do, whatever, whatever. But as time with the Obamas, I started seeing certain things happening to black America. I started seeing black America not being treated right, and that Trayvon Martin situation took place, and other incidents that took place during his leadership, during his time in his administration. And I noticed that black America wasn't getting anything from the vote. We got Obama phones and Obama Medicare where you had to pay into where you be fined, and more things for dependency, but nothing about independence, nothing about giving us any kind of tangibles and things to help better the condition of the black lives in America. Nothing for the black ghettos and help them poor working people. The I could say mothers or fathers, because there's a lot of fathers who today are raising single family households. There are fathers who had to take on that role of taking their children and raising them themselves, because some mothers are incarcerated and some mothers are deceased, and some mothers are just deadbeat mothers. you know, and it is what it is. So let's keep it real. And we are celebrating Father's Day, and we are this is a month for to honor men. June is a month for to honor men in their roles, right, in leadership. So like I said, I voted for those Obamas, but I enjoyed it while that season was there, and then I was like, oh wow. And then I started seeing things like rights for a lot of the people from the community for the LGBTQ, and also people that were the Asian community getting protection from harm. And it was just a lot of programs being offered to a lot of foreign black people and foreigners, people that were here, and then amnesty and allowing people to stay in the United States of America because they lived here. I was like, oh hell no. And that all cut off economic growth for black America. And it also started to make us start disappearing. And I just said hell to the no. So when Donald Trump became the candidate again for presidency, well, the first time, of course, I didn't vote for him. Believe I voted for Donald Duck. I don't, Mickey Mouse. I don't know. I really, truly don't remember if I took any interest in that election whatsoever because it was Donald Trump and I think it was Hillary. It was between Donald and Hillary because it was Bernie Sanders that was also a candidate, but he dropped out. And then it was left with Donald Trump and Hillary. And I just don't do women presidents. And for some reason, just like I don't do women to be the head over the church and none of that stuff. I'm not saying if she comes as a guest speaker or something for whatever, but I'm saying over leadership in the church. I don't do that. I don't do leadership of women in running countries either. So I'm just that's not being effeminate. I mean, or whatever you want to call it, but it's just some things I just don't step out of boundaries doing with God, and God already said it. It's in His Word. So back to what I'm saying. In this conversation is that I didn't like that black people were votes were not being heard. And here we had black people in leadership, even up to the president of the United States when Trayvon Martin was hunted down by George Zimmerman. Right then and there, when that question came to Obama, Obama said it was at the state level, which it was. It was a state level incident, and it had to be handled at a state level where that's where the investigation is supposed to go. He cannot touch that level. If it was a federal offense, that's the only way Obama could have got involved with Trayvon. That's his. That's the law. You study the law. You got to know the Constitution. You got to know the branch. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. You think the president of the United States can get involved right now at the state level of this case right now going on with Kamala? No. The president of the United States cannot touch pardoning or anything of this case. It has to go to the federal level. In order for Donald Trump to even pardon Carmelo, it has to be federal. It can't be state. So before everybody jump on the bandwagon, because we know it's coming about this Carmelo with Donald Trump and the racism and the supremacists and everything, I already broke it down to you. I already told you what these people are trying to do. Okay? Obama could not touch that stand your ground because he was at the federal. It was a federal. It wasn't federal. It was state. You got to learn your jurisdiction branches and everything else like that with the law. That's why I say justice is blind. You have to look at the law. You have to look at how every from case by case, and then you also got to see the law as far as like every state has a different way of jurisdiction, and then on top of that, You have to find the jurisdiction branches. There's state jurisdiction branches, there's federal jurisdiction branches, and there's another branch. There's a third branch, I think it is. But I'm just saying, I just want people to understand things because that's why I said you got to be quick to listen and slow to answer. You have to know how to do your research. You have to learn how to take things apart, piece by piece. You got to take things to a fine comb. You got to do that because if you don't, you be following the wrong things. You be accusing the wrong people, and you be misjudging. So that's why you have to really sometimes look at things with godly lenses on and not with your flesh. President Barack Obama, when Trayvon Martin was hunted down by George Zimmerman, no, Obama could not do anything at that moment because he was on a state level. That was on a state level. He was at federal. Only time a president can really touch a part of a case that might have been trial, mis there's been some kind of what they call discrepancies or mistrial or miscarriage of justice or whatever like that. That has to go through the Supreme Court. And it takes a lot of work and paperwork and filing. And you see what's going on with R. Kelly. R. Kelly is at the federal level. At his level, yes, President Trump can pardon him because he's on a federal level, but not Carmelo. I don't feed into what everybody say. Okay, I'm saying what I said, and that's it. It is what it is. And if you don't like the way I'm having this conversation, and if you disagree with me, then you can disagree with me. But there won't be no disrespect. That's all I got to say. So moving on with that one. So I'm saying the Obamas did a wonderful job celebrating their milestone together, and it was very heartfelt. And the beauty about it was that they had their family there, they had their close friends there, and their colleagues, and those who love them and support them in their works. And they did it with class and with with beautiful. It was just beautiful, and it was with dignity, and everything of that. Everything else, it just shined. They just brought the people heart so much happiness, and I'm glad they had their day that beautiful because this we are celebrating Father's Day season, and I'm glad Barack Obama was able to celebrate and share that moment with his children along with the people that really love him and care about him, and also with the fans that he have and the people that support him in his work in politics or whatever. Yep. So that was beautiful. So and then also a lot of wonderful things happened. President Trump and celebrated his 80th birthday, the way he enjoyed it with his friends on Flag Day, and had his celebration of wrestlers and that guy Josh Hoskett or whatever his name is. He just didn't do a good service. He did President Trump such a disservice. He did the President of the United States, and whether people think it was cute and funny or whatever, he did the President of the United States a disservice. And it didn't look good. And it didn't look good to the world or nobody. And everybody gave all the credit to the doggone Obamas. And that's it is what it is because it didn't look like America. To be carrying on like that, you made America look ghetto, low IQ, no class, and definitely not Christian like. That was not Christian like behavior, and that was not anything of class or anything of any integrity. Anything of it was just tacky, and it was shining on a birthday party for the president of the United States, and this is the way you carried on. You looked at real stupid. And I'm glad they didn't retaliate and they did it with class and with dignity because he's supposed to be setting an example better than what the Obamas was setting the example for. Because it was supposed to be President Trump's day, his birthday. And you supposed to have been looking like the people he said that are not DEI and are supposed to be merit. You was at the lowest of the lowest, Josh. That's the way I looked at it. You was the lowest of the lowest because you made America look like garbage. You did not set a good example for America. Just like how sometimes us look at these Democrats and the way they carry on out there. That's not cool. But now the Democrats got leverage. You know what I'm saying? They won back leverage because they won back leverage because of the way these so-called Republicans have been behaving around this Carmelo case, all the prejudice, all the bigotry, all the hate of white supremacy, attacks on black America and causing all kind of division and confusion and terrorism, you name it. And the Democrats are going to eat this up just by the Josh behavior and also with the McCleffs. These judges like Roach, the DA, whatever his name was, I can't remember, and that defense attorney that was supposed to be Carmelo's defense, and then having that all white jury and all that stuff going on in Texas. I'm going to tell you right now, the Democrats are going to use every bit of it because everything you meant to do evil turned around for their good. Because the all these things are attached to President Trump. Jake Lane, the judge just excused him and let him out, and that don't look good. Being that this man was out here inciting hate, hate. Okay, he was inciting hate and violence, and also making death threats. And you mean to tell me you excuse this type of behavior, that you actually will allow somebody like that out and change his bond? Are you serious? When this person speaks from their mouth like that, is really truly what comes out of their heart. And you are saying it's okay for him to be that way. So obviously, like I said before, you said it's okay for him to be that way. So it's okay for somebody to come and treat you that way. So whenever you get in, since like, this is how stupid people are. You got that much hate in your heart that just because he's white like you and he's saying these hateful things in front of a courthouse, and instead of really punishing him to the highest, you know, in the highest level of the law, you rather let him walk free again. And by allowing somebody like this to walk free again, this person is going to come and harm you. Because whatever you meant to harm other innocent lives to do, this man to do to other innocent lives, is going to turn on you. This is what I'm saying about the hateful people, the hateful supremacists, and the hateful people in America that's being plucked out by the Lord because the spirits are showing you who they are. Their character is showing you who they are. And these are the people that Donald Trump is drawing out. That's why I say do not remove him. Let him stay there for the next 2 years and serve his time in God's judgment. Because that's what it is. All these people that think they could get away with saying they're going to have power to control the black community, to put us back in our places, and also Those want to just like empty the United States of America of all the foreigners that they brought here and did some shady business with in their countries or whatever, where Black America had no parts of it. And that's what they want. They want to control, and they're getting scared, and they doing everything they can to think they could get away with it, and they're not, because God eyes is everywhere. And I told them that this is a nation under God protection over us, who are the black people who are here defenseless, who have no earthly weapons. But if we do, then those earthly weapons will turn against us. But when we don't, those earthly weapons will stay far away, and God's protection will continue to keep us covered. That's what it is. Okay? So, a lot of black people got to learn how to pray. They got to learn how to watch and pray. And they got to learn how to have communication with God and ask God for their protection. The more you try to do it the way they do it, the more it's going to hurt you. The more you do it the way God asks you to do it, the more you protect it from anyone's harm. The more you go out here and try to get rid of white supremacy by fighting evil for evil, nobody wins. And they say an eye for an eye makes everybody blind. And somebody got to see the light. So somebody got to see the light. No, we're not going to do it the way our ancestors did it in the 60s and the 50s, because they already showed us what they can do to us if we come to them asking for our rights. They hit us with bully clubs. They dragged us with dogs. Even they bombed your houses. They did everything. You know why? Because you shouldn't have came to them. You let them come to you. And you keep talking to God, and God keep them away from you. God knows how to protect you from your enemies. You have to trust God and hold on to your faith. These people are nowhere near as powerful as the Almighty God from the heavens. He has showed himself in so many stories before, in so many ways before. But we continue to feed right into the wickedness with them, with guns and knives. I don't own a gun. And I said, I don't own a gun. I call on Jesus. And the more you hold on to those kind of evil worldly weapons like that, those things are going to visit your home. Look at that mother who her own child shot her in the doggone face, a 10-year-old. She had the gun in the house. The kid had some challenging issues, right? And it was over some game that he wasn't allowed to play with. And he was angry with his mother, so he went and found that gun in that house and shot her in her face and left it there. And went and told his older siblings and them on his way that how he shot mommy in the face. See, when you gotta keep those idols out of your house, you gotta keep those evil things out of your house, and don't worship those things. Like I tell them, I don't want those things around me, and I don't want no guns around me. None of that, because I don't believe I should have one when I'm living around human beings. Now, if I'm living around some wild animal kingdom somewhere in the wild, then of course I'm gonna need a gun to, a bear or whatever come and attack me in the wilderness. But I'm living around human beings. What the hell I need a gun for? I don't go hunting. I don't do none of that stuff. That's not my lifestyle. You see, so anyway, I'm just saying, oh, I need a gun because I got to protect myself at night. Well, you better learn how to fight. You better learn some judo or some karate or whatever. Or know how to get some boxing skills going on. and trying to disarm somebody. But I'm just saying, don't carry a pocket knife or whatever. But I'm just saying to my beautiful people out there, I'm about humanity. I'm about humanity, and I want to live in a world that is safe, loving, nurturing, caring, and kind. I don't want to live in a world with violence and liars and murderers and thieves, So I call certain things out in people behavior out as well that go around and they use power to abuse other people or to hurt people. And I just like, oh well, I walk with Christ and I listen to and I follow his story and what he left behind and his characteristics of what he left behind and some of the things he say we should learn how to do for one another, learn how to treat one another, and know how to care about people. Sometimes don't just pass judgment on people until you know their story. And that's the whole part. When Christ stopped, he talked to the woman at the well. He knew this woman had a story. This woman was bitter, and he asked her for some water. She gave him some attitude, and he said, "Yo, you must have had so many." And then she was like, "How you know?" Because the way her behavior was towards him, even though they came from two different cultures, and they don't supposed to really assimilate well and mingle with each other. She was a Samaritan, he was a Jew. I don't know what a Samaritan was at that time, but it probably was somebody from a whole different cultural background with no, you know, like connections with. They didn't deal with Jewish people, those kind of people. Just like we got people here today. Like we ain't gonna see no. Like we dealing with Asians now, how we deal with the Asian community among the Black Americans. With the Black community, something like that. You would say. And once he ran, gave her the rundown about her life and everything, she was like, wow, finally somebody understand where I'm coming from. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's the way it is in this world. People need to communicate better. People need to stop the violence. And there's no reason why, if you just don't get along, that you should go out and get a gun and kill a person. You want to see them off their life or whatever. That's the most cowardly thing to do. You sometimes just got to take the Lord out and live to see another day. That's it's just take the L and just live to see another day. But anyway, but in this photo I have right here, I'm showing a picture of some black men sitting down, from elders to young men sitting down with a card game. Try to make it like a card game type of thing. And it has something to do with black culture, black heritage, American heritage. This is the black American story. Okay? This was a bonding thing where men would sit down and they would have their time to talk and bond and do certain things. And this is one of them, sitting down with a card game, playing a game of spades or whatever games men play, poker. Most black men and everything, they hit it. They usually into the game of spades. Okay, and this is their time of talking. And women, we do it too. We have our little card games going on too, or we play a game of backgammon or something with our girlfriends. We used to have those little moments alone, and we talk, and we have card games going on, spades, family gatherings, and get-togethers or whatever. Or you would see the black man in his time of bonding in the barbershop. That was another thing of our story of places black men will go. It would be everybody from the community, everybody from all different walks of life coming in the barbershop. That was what the story when we saw the movie Barbershop with Ice Cube in it and all that. Everybody came in Chicago to this little barbershop and everybody had their little story and what was going on in the community. And there was a story behind that community. It was the heartbeat or the staple to that community or something like that. It kept everything together. So, just like you watch Beauty Shop with Queen Latifah and the Beauty Shop theme and everything, how she built her community of hairstylists, of beauty with hair and everything else, hair care and all of that. And how she built her team workers and stuff, and how they got to go out and social, a little social life. And that's what we call economic growth. Also passing on generational wealth, family things of history of our family, our story, all of that other stuff. Where a lot of that black America has gotten away from when they grouped us in with all these foreigners. Because they don't feel the same way we feel about how rich we feel about our culture, the passion, how passionate we are about our culture and our history and everything else. They don't feel it. The only thing they come here for is money and to build their own new life from where they came from. They don't feel the same way we feel about the soil here. And that's why I wanted to just share this story tonight with Juneteenth and celebration of Juneteenth. What have you learned? What have you added to your story of your history, of your ancestry, or whatever? Because these people that come from these other places of the world to the United States of America, they don't come here to really truly be an American. They came only for capital, money. We do good in America without the capital of money because America is our roots and we're going to eat off the fat of the land no matter what. That's what I'm saying. We don't need to do no fleeing, and the only thing we got to do is learn how to share our portions fairly. That's it. Share our portion fairly because when we wasn't living in their neighborhoods and dealing with them, our children were doing just fine. Okay, we didn't have our children all pierced up and tattooed up and smoking all kind of meth and crack cocaine and drugs and stuff. Our women bodies were purified. You hear me? They had healthy pregnancies, healthy deliveries, and the whole nine. Even though sometimes those deliveries could have been very difficult, but still in all, they got them babies out in the world with none of the drugs in their body being pumped into them or nothing. And then all of a sudden they wanted to get out in the world and they wanted to explore with being around white folks and living the way white folks live. And now look at our children, they look just crazy as anything. They look like they crawled out of somebody's cave or something. Okay, they behavior is so out of control. Those This is what happens when you let your kids stray with everything. So now God is calling everybody back to their true selves. And the thing is that our children need to be back home trained. Home trained. Need to get our kids out of their schools. Start home training them from home, schooling them from home, and cleaning them up. And let boys be boys and girls be girls again. Because all of this weird stuff out here. And just like I told my cousin and them, I said, well, look, when we do the gathering this summer at the cookout, whatever, we ain't playing none of that crazy music. Gets no play. Okay? We're going to specifically play old school, the good stuff, to bring the joy and to bring the energy of nothing but joy around us and everybody get out safely. We ain't putting on that crazy music they produce today out there. Demonic and scary. And it brings out a certain element and it draws certain type of energy and attention. That's why none of that stuff getting played at our family barbecues and our family gatherings. Leave that stuff where they at. Don't come to the barbecue if you think you're gonna hear hip hop, bebop, whatever. And only hip hop bebop you probably will hear is the old school, where it wasn't no violence, no cussing, no disrespect to young girls, and no disrespect to the women or to the men. Just pure, clean, fun music. Okay? None of the garbage that they produce today got your kids crazy. And then on top of that, we ain't doing all of that. This style, these fools out here, they done. These tatted tattoos and piercing crazy people today, they're done. We're talking about our babies coming up now. How we got to lead the way for them. How they got to carry the next generation. Without this craziness, we want to introduce them to good music. We want to give them good home cooked meals. We want to make sure they know how to look like a little girl when they go to school, and when they're a little boy, they go to school, and when they go to church, they dress like little girls, and the boys dress like little gentlemen. We're gonna teach them all that stuff again, so it don't get lost with us. Okay, because we really lost it. Okay, these things we see today. Oh Lord Jesus, Lord Jesus, they look like aliens. To me, they look like aliens. I was looking at a news report, a crime news report. Dude killed people. He just got out of jail. He did 3 years. He just came out of jail again, and he went and killed some more. Okay. When I looked at his body, he was tatted up. I mean, all the way all down his neck on his face. I said, "Oh no, that's a done. That's a done deal." Once those tats get to reach their face and their body to the point where it's almost covering their whole body, they are no longer useful to society. Those are people that need to go to CCOT because they can't be rehabilitated. They have really truly been thrown over to a reprobate, meaning there's no repentance. God said it himself. There are some people that are just going to be. He turned them over to a reprobate. You don't got that evil, but you're evil. No regards for God, no regards for anything. Once they get to the point where they just mark up their whole goddamn body, time for them to just be thrown away in the cage somewhere and locked there for the rest of their days on earth, because there's no such thing as real. I mean, God said it himself. Some people will be just turned over to being a reprobate. There's nothing about them gonna change. Okay? That's just who they are, and they won't repent. And they'll find an excuse and every reason why they did the crimes that they did. And they will never live up to they will never say they were wrong. They will always, even if they do say they were wrong, they'll still kill again. They just only saying it just for that moment, just to get out of, just to move on. But the truth is that once they touch blood like that, and you have been a murderer like that, and I'm talking about a serial murderer, I'm talking about a notorious murderer, you cannot be really rehabilitated. You are stuck in that state of mind for life because you got all those bodies on you. And those bodies become spirits on you. It torments you for life. So I'm just saying, people don't want to believe, they don't have to. But I'm just saying. And this man was just released out of jail of 3 months, 3 years, I'm sorry. And he just had to go and murder some people again. Not one, but a couple of people again. Okay? That's a notorious killer. That is a serial killer. That is a murderer who don't have no regards for life at all. That is a dead walking soul. And they have no use to be out in society. And anybody that will release another person like that in society, it will visit their home. That's all I'm saying. Because you know something is evil and wicked, and you know that person is a bad person to be in society and they could do harm to other people. And you're going to ignore all of that just out of your own evil way of thinking. Evil will visit your own home. And that same person you release, it may not be them, but it will be somebody in the form of them that will come and visit you. And you wouldn't even know how they come because you would think they're a friend. That's how the spirits of the demons that are in these people that wish evil on other people to happen, it always enter on them. That's how God works. He will bring your evil to you. Whatever you wish harm, like I said, people been saying these horrible things about Carmelo Anthony. Don't even know this kid. This kid is innocent. Not saying that he didn't stab or poke whatever Austin Metcalf, but what led up to it is what they're missing from. What did Austin Metcalf do to cause himself to get poked? Maybe if he didn't approach Carmelo and do the say the things he said to Carmelo, and it was him and several other people that approached Carmelo, and Carmelo wouldn't have been in fear for his life and wouldn't have had to use a tool to poke him to get himself out of the way and get himself to safety. See, people don't go that deep. All they see is a color, a skin color thing. But I said anybody that sit around and they wishing the bad things on Carmelo, those will be the same things that will be visiting them. And it don't have to be somebody that looks like Carmelo or Carmelo himself. It'll be somebody that you would think is a friend. Okay? So always be careful on how you wish harm on others, especially when you weren't there, you didn't see it, you only heard from what was reported, but you really wasn't sure what really took place. Keep your mouth shut. And if you ain't got nothing to say to make it sound like at least he can be innocent, because it could be self defense, at least, because it could be you. But you know, some people can't think no more deeper than the surface. So, of course, they go right there to wish someone the worst because they don't even realize they're wishing that on themselves. This is why Jesus tells us to be good, because the be attitude, because that will save you. You know, when you speak that into the world and to speak that evil, all those things you speak against someone else will come back and haunt you. Now, he says you could get angry, get upset, whatever, but sin not. And sin means don't act on it. You could say all these things, but your actions always speak louder than your words. And sometimes your cup is so overflowing and you're so full. And you sometimes can't take but so much before you explode. But the thing is that's why it's always good to listen quickly and act on it slowly. And that's when we pray about things. Pray, pray, pray. All day and all night. Because we live in a world that is full of evil. And we also have to watch ourselves and watch our tongue and what we say that can bring harm to others. So, with that being said, you all that came in tonight, I love you. God bless you. And this was my nightcap for Juneteenth. And what did I learn? New that I didn't know. I learned that there's two Juneteenth. One Juneteenth is celebrating Black American history and our freedom and our strength and our perseverance and all the great things about us. And then the other one is those we left behind that still want to be slaves, that still want to live in the Africa mind, state of mind. We're not Africans, we're Americans. In America, Juneteenth is in America and is not in Africa, only in the USA. Born here in the USA. With that being said, I love you. God bless you. Peace.